Let's talk about how I created this stop-motion animation. PeeWee's Brightest Day was just a personal project that I decided to do for fun. One of the things I like to do on my projects is emphasize certain stop-motion techniques. For this project, I really emphasized using live-action references, character rigging, and mouth animation. I do rigging and live-action references on nearly all of my animations, but I do mouth animation sparingly because it can be time-consuming. Luckily on this project, PeeWee came with multiple heads, a silly smirk, and an excited screaming face. With these two heads, I was able to get a majority of the dialogue done in camera. I was able to do this by using a live-action reference, which helped me pinpoint which frames to replace the heads on. Live-action references are tools that animators use to dial in timing and motion, and are often just footage of the animator themselves performing the script. I worked with a close friend of mine to come up with the idea for PeeWee's Brightest Day, Scott White, a talented voice actor and huge PeeWee fan. After Scott delivered his audio, I performed my live-action reference with his dialogue playing in the background. This allowed me to emphasize with my body the same words that he emphasized with his voice, which I think helps produce movements that feel connected to the dialogue.
In brightest day, in blackest night.
No evil shall escape my sight!
Once the live-action reference is complete, the next thing I do is prep the action figure for animation. The main part of this step is creating a rigging port by inserting a square brass tube that is compatible with my stop-motion winder. Let's take a more in-depth look at how I do this. First, I determine the best place to insert the brass tube. Once I do that, then I drill a hole. The hole should be slightly larger than the brass tube. I then mix together an epoxy and pre-fill the hole. Then I take the brass tube, which I pre-cut with a craft saw, and carefully insert it into the figure. After letting it dry, I'm now ready to animate. This process allows me to insert and remove my character from the set with ease, and the square shape prevents the figure from wobbling during animation. Other preparations that I do include expanding the neck hole and trimming the hand pegs. This allows me to swap hands and heads throughout animation without bumping the figure too heavily. So now that the animatic is complete and the character is prepped for animation, I can finally break out my camera and set up the scene, which in this case is a secluded park with some edgy DC lighting. I built this scene using a grass blanket and some foam painted trees that I created a few years ago. And I used a TV in the background to extend the scene with a digital image behind the practical set. With the right lighting and camera angle, using a digital background can help you make the most out of a small shooting space. So now that I've got all of this done, I can finally open DragonFrame and start animating. The first thing I do is input my animatic into DragonFrame. So while I was animating, I was able to follow along frame by frame to ensure that my animation timing lines up with the voiceover and intended actions. Overall, I spent more than 14 hours on set animating the 422 images it took to create this sequence. After animating, I took that image sequence into After Effects where I began the post-production process. I start by removing the rigs. I use subtraction masks to remove the rigs from the raw footage, revealing the background plate underneath, which is an empty frame of your diorama without characters or rigs in the scene. And I use the rotoscope tool to mask and replace the pieces of the character that were removed during the rig removal process. Once the rigs were removed, I added some sauce by enhancing the atmosphere with some light rays and some subtle smoke to help it feel more cinematic. And that, for the most part, is how I created this 34-second stop motion. We hope you found this informative, but let us know any questions in the comments. In the meantime, enjoy PeeWee's Brightest Day.
In brightest day, in blackest night.
No evil shall escape my sight!
Let those who worship evil's
Might beware my power! Ah! Green Lantern's light! La 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 la.